They are going to not take their time on this one because we are itching to see what the rest of these lineups are going to be. So to recap, Maokai up in the top lane has been picked up. Janna and Kha'Zix on the side of Cyborg Factory, with the last two so far being Nami and Corki, which, to be honest, not a surprise to anybody. Corki has seen such a power spike in recent times. Ever since Worlds, just seen how strong Corki is in the mid-game, great at sieging towers, sieging objectives.
Indeed. So, they're hovering over the Ryze. They did actually hover over Ryze in their first rotation, but didn't decide to lock it in. Again, they're toying with the idea.
I don't think they should, because remember, Ryze had a big nerf to his overload damage during every level. I believe it's something like 20 at level rank 1, and then 25, 30, 35, and 40 damage was reduced off everything. And that really impacts Ryze's laning phase, who, up until that nerf, was a very strong laner in the top lane, but not anymore. He certainly cannot put up as much of a fight.
It's possible they may just lock this in regardless. Maybe that's something part of their top laner's champion pool that hasn't really changed as of recent days. And they do hover over that Tristana. We do have the Lucian, of course, taken away. And while we've been talking about the Ryze, they do solidify that pick, lock that in alongside the Tristana.
I'm worried for Cyborg Factory right now. They have a big mid-game dip that is going to get exploited by MelonCats already. You look at a Corki power in the mid-game. Maokai is great for absorbing damage in the mid-game fights as well as the late game. Tristana has that natural dip, and her laning phase probably is not as strong as they need to go against a Corki and Nami. And then Ryze has had that damage fall off as well. So this is an older composition. This is what we were expecting going into Worlds, but what came out of Worlds was a fair amount different.
And it's worth mentioning that, of course, Cyborg Factory are coming in from the EUNE side of things, so their meta is going to be a little bit different here. So they do go with this one. I know their meta is different, but I don't think it's got different. So we look at MelonCats here. They do decide to lock in the Jarvan. Touched briefly on that before as kind of the top trifecta of junglers coming into the new season. And Zed as well will be coming in for Abaria.
Yes, Zed, a champion that was left available, and Abaria does play Zed. We know that was in our research for him as a mid laner, and we're going to see a skill matchup here, as it's going to be the Ahri Zed matchup once again. So all about the charm. If you can charm before Zed darts away to his shadows, you could be alright in that matchup. But other than that, Zed has far more mobility in and around the lane.
So now we have all of these picks locked in. We're looking down the line, looking for any trends here, Stress, that would signal what type of composition these guys are looking for. And we look at MelonCats, and it definitely looks, well, after you see a Maokai, you immediately think in your head, teamfight composition.
You do indeed, and then you add Jarvan on top of that, and these mid-game team fights are should go so well for MelonCats right now. You look at Abaria on Zed, able to pick off one person. Corki has insane burst damage as well. I'm worried for this Cyborg Factory mid-game dip, but can they get any kind of pressure in front of turrets for Cyborg Factory? They have Kha'Zix and Ahri. That's good pick potential, which can set them up fairly well, but when you're looking at pick, the worst thing for that, or to go against that, is, or the best thing, to be honest, is hard engage. The worst thing to play against is hard engage.
That's accurate. So when we look at this lineup, it basically just screams to you, team late game. You get into the late game, you have the resets from Tristana, Kha'Zix, got Ryze thrown in there for the mix, and just all that peel from Janna be very difficult to deal with.
Yes, indeed. But we are into the loading screen, which means we want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yes, indeed. So head over to Twitter and tweet at LOL Esports using the hashtag LCS expansion and get your thoughts over to us before we have this game starting up, and get your predictions in, because anything could happen in this series. As we've seen today, we've had upsets, we've had crazy games, we've had super long series, and I hope it doesn't change here.
I really hope it doesn't change, because although I'm going to be really tired at the end of this, it will be so worth it if we get another 3-game series with some epic games, which I really hope is the case.
And we'll be back next week as well with even more crazy games to come up, more even, to use the word again, crazy League of Legends action. So we'll see what happens there, but we're not even there yet, Stress. We have another best of 3 before we end the proceedings. We are just waiting to get into game.
Yeah, Crykee, he's loading slow. You won't get that unless you can see my screen, but we are about to head into the game. I'm sorry.
I wasn't expecting it.
Oh dear.
Unseen pun.
It's actually not Corki either that's loading slow. It's Ahri.
Yeah.
Corki was loading a little slow. But you mentioned next
yeah.
week's games, which you know there are some big teams featuring in next week's
familiar
games.
faces coming into this one. H2K,
Yeah.
you may have heard of before.
May have, yeah,
May have,
just a little
except
team.
everyone in the LoL community. Millennium as well. We'll see how that one pans out as we get into next week. But we should be focusing on this game's stress because we have mere seconds before we get onto the Rift.
Yes, indeed. So, still not quite there. You know, it wouldn't be a Europe game without a slow load.
It wouldn't, and I don't want to jinx it, but it wouldn't be a European game without a pause. So, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
We can get over that
we're
hurdle.
slowly creeping up. We're at 96% now. So there's the play-by-play of the loading screen. But this is a very important game. We are making light of a situation with the loading screen. But this is game 1 of a best-of-3 series to determine who goes and advances to round 2 and puts them with, you know, close range of LCS. That's a good, just a couple of games away, potentially, from a spot in the LCS.
And we will be answering that question of who will be getting one step closer to the LCS as we get onto the Rift. In the bottom left-hand corner, spotting the blue colors, will be MelonCats. Up in the upper right-hand corner, of course, will be Cyborg Factory, hailing from the EUNE server.
So, can our team from the Czech Republic do a good job, or good enough job, to get themselves into the second round? That really is the question.
Well, something that's already apparent to me, Stress, is both these teams are very happy and very happy to ping. They like their pings. I'm not sure how much information that's conveying, but there is a ping on top of that ward, so at least that makes sense. It's going to be the lines of scrimmage. As we head into the first couple seconds of this game, no one looking to make an aggressive play just yet.
It has been a while, and by a while I mean a couple of weeks, but that in League meta, that is a while, since we have seen Ryze in that top lane. And MelonCats already playing this out as a standard game. They are just putting down the wards early on, and I expect to see Zeclipse get a fair amount of help up in this top lane. I don't think the jungle pressure is too necessary for the matchup as such, but if Gilius can get the ball rolling for Zeclipse, this could be Gilius' path to redemption being sorted from that top lane.
So, everyone sitting in their jungles, we look across at the items as well, and there's not the biggest of differences, but it's interesting to note that there's a lot of biscuits over on the side of Cyborg Factory. One in the top lane kind of makes a little bit of sense on Ryze, who doesn't like to go deep into the utility mastery stress. But then you look at mid lane, Ahri as well, sporting the biscuits and the bot lane support.
Yes, indeed. Taking a look at the bottom lane, though, MelonCats are pushed up fairly far into this bush, and they're looking to set up that level 2 that we have seen time and time again, and they're actually going to get gifted a bit of an easier start here as well, because take a look at the Cyborg Factory bot lane. They actually started out helping their jungler on the buff, so that is a big misplay when it comes to getting that level 2.
Yeah, in the bot lane, they will be putting down a little bit of pressure, but that Tristana now showing her face. Haven't seen too much of that in the EU LCS expansion tournament. Been a whole lot of Lucian and a whole lot of Corki. Dioud putting down that damage onto Tarky. Lots of trading back and forth, but it looks like MC, MelonCats bottom lane, has won out slightly.
And the problem that Cyborg Factory are going to have here is the fact that they don't actually have the sustain from Janna. Nami, on the other hand, is going to heal up Crykee every time they trade and harass. And Tristana has a bad enough end of the laning phase and, you know, mid-game phase as it is, that coming out behind from this laning phase could be problematic.
Oh, bubble lands onto Tristana. Both of the AD carries get exhausted. Will be jumping forward. Uses the heal to get away, but now is he too overextended? He is in a good place. Lots of summoners burn, most of them from the side of Cyborg Factory.
Double summoners from Tristana and the exhaust from both supports. That is a big win in the bottom. Oh, bubble again!
Another Acro Prison followed with the Phosphorus Bomb. First blood, last auto attack by Dioud secures it.
And this is a reason why we haven't seen a lot of Tristana recently. She is just not a safe laner right now, especially against the likes of Corki when paired with a support that has harass and sustain. And that is a great start for MelonCats. They're going to say, okay, our top lane may not go the way we want it to, but across the map, we'll take the rest.
Yeah, looking very good for them so far. You mentioned in Champions League, they are a mid-game focused team against a mid-game dipping team from Cyborg Factory, and this is just setting them up perfectly. Now, Idylom goes into the jungle, tries to get something away here. He looks to counter jungle away from Gilius.
His counterpart, speaking of Gilius, headed into the mid lane.
There's the flag, there's the drag, heads onto Shiage in the mid lane. Flash comes out, lands the passive as well. Last tower shot plus the ignite isn't enough to pick him up in return. The answer is going to be a no. Will be escaping by the skimmer's teeth. However, Kha'Zix is coming in, but Zeclipse roams in from the top lane. Gets the jump over the wall, a smooth 1-0.
And for a top lane, or not a top lane main, Zeclipse covering very well for Gilius there. Was not expecting to see him roam down. That was a very nice play out of Gilius to make sure they got that kill, and a great start for MelonCats.
So, looking very happy with this one so far. Gilius head back to base, well on his way to the Spirits of the Elder Lizard. Bot lane, already you can see the Sightstone picked up by Dioud. Perfect timing on those two item pickups.
Yeah, indeed. Now, Crykee is looking not to push this out too far because they want to exploit Tristana as she always pushes in towards the enemy lane, or the enemy turrets. Crykee wants to make sure that Tristana is as overextended as possible once she gets to the lane, and from there should be a fairly easy pickup for Gilius because no flash available now makes for an easy gank.
How much impact can Gilius make on this game? As I mentioned before, in Champion Select, he has that world experience, of course, subbing in for SK in those first 3 games. And can he use that experience? Can he get this to work out for his team? As Kha'Zix comes into the top lane, will be placing down the Taste of Their Fear, of course, the passive of Unseen Threat, but it wasn't enough threat to do and dish out the damage to Zeclipse, who will just carry on farming.
Shiage has to be careful in the mid lane. Take a look at Gilius' positioning. He may be looking to set up another gank here, as Ahri does not have her flash, remember. If Shiage pushes out here, Gilius could catch her out, but there we go. Does ward up. It's a little bit late, but the thought process is there.
So, we'll be slightly secured here, as a ping goes down into that ward. Gilius, assuming that it may be a pink, might be able to head in here, clear it out. And there comes the flag. That is 100 gold down the drain for the mid lane of Shiage.
Yeah, I mean, no wards were gained from that bubble again.
Again, Iaka Prison, 3 in a row, tic-tac-toe, and it will not be Tristana going down, but takes a huge amount of damage, forces him back to the turret.
This bottom lane, I do not understand why you would pick yourselves into a corner like this, especially when you've picked such a weak top laner right now. And yes, the top lane is not going drastically wrong for Ryze, but it certainly is not a comfortable matchup anymore. And my goodness, Cyborg Factory have a lot of confidence getting to the late game if they really think they can compete here against MelonCats using a Tristana.
Left and right, all over the board, everyone is getting punted around by Cyborg Factory, and this is kind of how you would expect on paper these lanes to go, Stress. And it's just working out as intended. Everyone is ahead on farm. Large CS disparity in the bottom lane, but in the mid lane we do have Idylom coming in from the backside. Abaria, does he have the ability to get away with it? He will head in with this one with the death mark. That will be a dead Kha'Zix as it ticks down. And Shiage trying to get something back onto Gilius, but not even close with the damage.
Really nice by Gilius again, and I feel like I'm going to be saying that quite a lot this series. Gilius is a well-experienced player that is starting to set up his mid laner very well, and this is why we see Zed banned out, because he's got a kill and an assist to his name, and this is going to be a very difficult lane if Cyborg Factory want to turn it on its head.
Yeah, he has a lot of experience. Not only was he in Worlds, but also with Unicorns of Love as well, as they made their way into the LCS. This time, looking to make his own way into the LCS with his own team. And so far, it's looking like this is a well-trodden path that he's following.
Yes, indeed, and you know, Gilius has found himself a substitute on a couple of big rosters. You already mentioned SK at Worlds and Unicorns of Love in their promotion game. Funnily enough, against, oh no, that was against Millennium, who is a potential contender. So maybe Gilius could get some revenge on that. But this, as you said, his own team, the problem is they've had that setback, and can Gilius do enough?
So far, looks like he is. 2 kills he has been helping out with in this game. Trying to snowball that throughout the early game here. Has gone back to base, and talking about snowballing, has opted towards the mobility boot of all items.
He's going to be able to get into lane far more often now, or at least far faster, as Jarvan with mobility boots is fairly difficult to contend with. But that's something that we know from Gilius, is he goes Sightstone, he goes one longsword, and then typically picks up his mobility boots on his junglers.
Right.
And that from there makes him a lot more versatile. A little bit less damage, but that doesn't really matter when you're getting so many of your lanes fed.
So 9 minutes into the game, 3 kills go over to MelonCats. A significant CS advantage in the form of 2,000 gold. You take a look at the warding coverage as well, and it's fairly even over the board. Mid lane, Deathmark comes in, and Shiage is ticking down with the Ignite as well. Stand still, he knows his fate, and will be dropping one-on-one in the mid lane.
1v1 kills are not what you want from your mid laner unless you're the ones getting them. As Zed is now 2-0-1. This lane is going really badly now for Ahri. We spoke about it being a skill matchup. Gilius assisted with that. And now from there, he's going to be able to take down a dragon. Let's take a quick look, however, at the damage difference in the bottom lane. Tristana did manage to get a pickaxe, which, when you look at the items right now, you'd think, oh, pickaxe against the makings of a phage. That must be going very well for Tristana. And then you look at the farm and realize that Corki is sat on 2,000 gold right now and hasn't really been pressured out of the lane in a very long time. So he's going to back away pretty soon, I would imagine. Finish up that phage, grab the sheen, and be well on his way to a big power spike.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually getting to the point where he could almost complete a Trinity Force, and as you mentioned, it doesn't look like he's being pressured out of this lane. It's starting to get on the horizon of doubling the farm of his counterpart, which is not a scoreline you see every day.
Really is not, and especially when you'd expect these to be somewhat close.
Dioud just get pinned to the wall by this Monsoon, but Kha'Zix is a little bit too far away. There comes the tidal wave, we'll be knocking them back. Ebb and Flow, is it enough to keep him alive? Yes it is, plus the health potion. So lots of ultimates burned, and the Jungle of Time yields no results.
Nothing really for it, and I mean, you look at this kind of setup, Crykee is going to be able to clear this wave fairly quickly, but top lane, let's take a look.
Gilius comes in with the flag and drag, doesn't decide to use his ultimate, had the flash as well if he wanted to use it, but didn't connect the big CC movement. And that will signal for Gilius to head out.
It will indeed, but gets the pretty... Ooh, I thought that charm may have connected there. Ping's going down wildly onto the jungle on the lower side, but Gilius is headed back up top again. He stood on a ward though, so I don't expect Ryze to fall from this.
He's now heading all the way around to the back of the turret. He's just looking for the dive regardless. He's sticking around. Here's the flank and drag, and Zeclipse will just pop his ultimate. Tanks the tower as well, just in case Gilius wants to make a speedy exit. But Idylom now heads into the top lane, see if he can clear out the minion wave. But now he's just going to be dived as well. Gilius still has the ultimate. The flank and drag will be duking out the wave, but can't juke the second one as well. Gilius will be flashing away from the turret. Zeclipse doesn't have enough damage. He will just need a couple more seconds. Here comes the sapling. Doesn't land that one, but does have the Twisted Advance along with the Arcane Smash, and now is just a chasing game.
He's
Gilius
isolated.
Has to be careful though. Idylom will get locked up, and Zeclipse takes him one-on-one with the assist going to Gilius. A 2-0 in total.
A little bit messy up in that top lane, but again, maybe that's because Zeclipse, not a top lane main, didn't really preempt Kha'Zix just going into the bush, but they clean it up nonetheless, and I have to feel going into that fight, we were saying Ryze really shouldn't have stuck around bottom lane.
Tarky is getting punished here. He will have to flash away, and Abaria comes in from the mid lane.
Easy
he does
kill.
have his ultimate, he does have his flash, but doesn't decide to go in on it.
It would have been an easy kill should he looked for it, but I feel like when you're this far ahead, another kill on a support is great, but if you can pressure out with a minion wave on the turret and force them to stick around, maybe you can get more than one kill here. Maybe MelonCats would be looking for something if it weren't for Shiage turning up.
Yeah, just the fact that he was off the map temporarily may have just been enough for them to say, okay, let's dial it back a bit. We are 6-0 over our counterparts, plus that extra tower. We have a 5,000 gold advantage, and we netted that original dragon. So far they have nothing too much to fear. But what Kha'Zix has to fear is an Abaria heading up the river. Gilius coming in from behind. He will pull the old switcheroo as he jukes out of the way of the flag and drag and will get back to safety.
And if they've got nothing to fear, that might explain why Idylom is currently 0-2. He's not really finding his grounding in this game, and he has to get the ball rolling fairly soon. They're even on CS, but look at the effect that Gilius has had on this game. This is the mark of a well-experienced player, and look at the switch up here. MelonCats have put their duo lane in the mid because Zed was already winning that lane, and Tristana is so far behind that Abaria can probably just all-in Sayn if he really wants to.
Well, it's in a little bit of a precarious position.
Oh,
we'll play
top
it
lane.
safe. Top lane, everyone is converging. Here comes Gilius. Will sidestep the flag and drag. Here comes the Tana wave. Do they decide to go for this dive? Zeclipse is leading a charge. He will take point, but the aggro will switch to Nami, meaning that they can make a very easy escape. Gilius takes a couple tower shots on the way out, but is quite happy with that result.
This is just good map control by MelonCats. They know exactly where the summoners are down and how much they can really pressure out. And Abaria, ooh, just from a couple of abilities, is shredding through the health of Tristana, who has picked up that Avarice Blade. We had seen, as Tristana was being played, a lot of Static Shift being picked up as a first item, but it's going to be late here. It's going to be very late compared to Trinity Force Corki, which is already completed. So he's already matched, or at least made his damage spike for this mid-game period.
Yeah, and he picked that up at around 13 minutes as a Trinity Force is quite good as you get into games
Zed
like
in
this.
the bottom lane.
Abaria,
They
can he get away from this situation? There comes the Living Shadow.
Nice charm.
Scrap that. He uses his ultimate, jukes away as well. Skill shots all go awry, and Abaria makes a nice escape.
I missed about as many words in that sentence as Ahri did the charm, because I was going to say nice dodge of the charm, but Shiage not quite finding it. Zeclipse does eat a charm on that one.
Well, he teleported in from the top lane. That's a big cooldown to come out, especially as they weren't able to get in range, so they didn't make use of that. But honestly, one summoner spell going down for the amount of ground and acceleration they picked up in this game stress, I don't think they're going to be too concerned.
No, I really don't think they're going to be too worried about that. Let's take a quick look at the items, however. 201Z currently sat on 2,000 gold, means although he's only got a build water now, as soon as he heads back, he can either complete some of those items, maybe even look for, you know, a more aggressive set of items from this as well. I was thinking perhaps he might opt for a Hex Drinker, but that would play a little more defensively, and I don't really think he needs it right now. Sometime in this game might be very effective against the Ryze, but here's the fight.
Gilius has just locked in. Cejlon in the top lane with his ultimate. Crykee walks up to the fight, throws out a couple auto attacks, and those Sheen augmented auto attacks will rip him apart in no time. Gilius just get hit up by the combo from Shiage, but it's not a lot of damage, and they will start off this second dragon. And Idylom is around the side, trying to pull off a miracle steal. Throws out the Void Spikes, but decides better of it. He may even still get caught out by Abaria, who decides to juke back in. Oh, again, jukes the charm using his own death mark. Heads in, flash out of the way of the tidal wave, which would have secured his death, and makes a speedy retreat back to his team.
MelonCats pick up the dragon though, and that's even more gold in the pocket of a champion like Zed. 2,500. Let's take a look at what he does end up backing with, but MelonCats are in such a good position now. They are going to get another turret. This is looking to be somewhat of a whitewash of a game.
This is just textbook all over the board by MelonCats. They are doing everything right. They pick up a kill, they pick up an objective, and the cycle repeats. It's just rinse and repeat as we head through this game, edging on the 10,000 gold mark. Only around 8,000 gold at the moment, but 17 minutes in, proportionally, that is huge.
That is a massive difference, and it leads to a big disparity in items. Take a quick look. Ahri, currently on the makings of a Zhonya's. Does she have enough to convert that? No, still about 250 gold away. But her lane opponent completed Blade of the Ruined King and a Brutalizer with Mercury Treads. Makes Zed a very powerful champion to deal with here.
So, everyone will be looking to head back here. Talking about difficult champions to deal with, Gilius sitting in the jungle, the one-man Death Bush. Looking to head up here, we'll be clearing up this pink ward as he spots it with his own. Just the fact that he can be so aggressive and so comfortable in the opposing jungle kind of just tells the tale of this game.
Yeah, and another tale of this game really has been the expectations of top lane. And I'll be honest, Zeclipse has done a great job so far. We knew Maokai was one of the champions that he was playing and practicing, and he has done a good enough job here. He is 1-0-2, and I think that is commendable. But to some extent, the Ryze pick was a little bit questionable out of Cyborg Factory.
That being said, late game is the name of the game for Cyborg Factory. It's just a question of whether they can get there, because currently it doesn't look like that's going to happen, Stress, as they are edging on 10,000 gold behind their counterparts. 3 towers down. Can they hold the line? Can they draw that line in the sand, make sure they can go no further? And Gilius is heading around the side, seeing if he can find himself a pick.
One thing that's going to make it difficult to get through this mid-game period is the Aegis of the Legion already being completed on Nami. That's really strong against a double AP composition in this mid-game phase. And it's going to buy MelonCats a lot of time before they actually have to start worrying about any kind of magic resistance. So, Cyborg Factory somehow have to find the damage here.
And I'm not sure it's going to be coming. There is nothing behind that rallying call. Shiage heads to the top lane. He's your laner. Go deal with him. And
easier said than done right now.
Absolutely. Abaria in the top lane will be clearing up this minion wave, and with Gilius trying to head around the side, we'll be spawning out Tarky, so we'll be able to be that aggressive that quickly. And all in all, MelonCats have kind of dispersed away from this one. Abaria has taken a full combo from Shiage, and he decides to turn tail. And now red buff has spawned. It looks like the point of contention for these two junglers.
It does. Gilius. And both junglers actually have their smite available, so who gets it?
Looks like it's the team of MelonCats, and there's the Monsoon for the disengage. Idylom takes a huge amount of damage. Gilius has the Cataclysm, locks up Tarky, will be forcing his flash as well. So summoners across the board have been burnt. Here comes Abaria, here comes the Deathmark, and there goes the dead Tristana. Crykee comes in for a very aggressive play. 1 versus 3. You are not the front line, Corki, and he will be punished for it.
That was a little bit over-aggressive from Crykee, as he is 1-1-1-1, but feels like he's far further ahead right now because of that damage spike. But top lane is still under a lot of threat here from MelonCats, and Shiage is trying to hold it with his wave clear.
Flag, drag, here comes the tidal wave. Will be Zhonyaed out of this one. How much more CC and how much more damage do they have? Evanflow comes out, and that will be Dioud finishing them off with a nice little auto attack to come out ahead on that one.
But in the middle lane, look at Abaria again, is pushing down a turret, and Idylom jumps in. This is just Zed in full split push mode. 10-1 to the kills now overall between these two teams.
And Cyborg Factory are just being juggled. They just need more members on their team to keep up with the aggression from MelonCats. And that is not something that's available in League of Legends, so they're going to have to come up with a different option.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've brought coaches into the LCS now, or in this game even bringing coaches into the game. Yeah. But I don't think that allows you actually 6 members, so that's a step further than I think we can go to. But in this game, Dragon is up 55 seconds. MelonCats are looking very comfortable because they know their composition at this point in the game has so much more damage than Cyborg Factory. Look at Tristana, has a mid-game dip anyway as a champion. And in this game, BF Sword Pickaxe, Avarice Blade, no completed item. And that is pretty much the story all the way down the list of items here for Cyborg Factory. They just do not have any competing items with MelonCats.
Yeah, their big items consist of a Rod of Ages and a Zhonya's Hourglass. That is bare bones when you compare that to the lineup of MelonCats.
Yes, indeed. Zed now even has that Ghost Blade as well and a red potion. So if ever he was going to be strong, now is his time. As we've seen him banned out in quite a few of the games today, and just across the recent competitive times in general. And I would say that every time we have seen him, you kind of see why he's banned away. Yeah,
this game. So Crykee, the rest of the team taking away this dragon, just building up their gold total even more. A barrier in the mid lane, uses the Deathmark, heads one back, doesn't have enough damage with that tick from the ultimate. It will force Sayn back to base. Gilius has found himself. Kha'Zix, however, there's the flag and drag. Oh,
tidal wave
gets him with the tidal wave. Now comes in the Cataclysm to cut off the escape route. Tarky is still cut off from his team, but Abaria doesn't have his death mark from that previous engagement. Still, a 1-for-1, a 1-for-0. Not a bad trade.
The exhaust was used onto Abaria, though, and he didn't have death mark. Typically, you want to save that as much as possible, and MelonCats are going to swing around to the top lane. However, does this leave Crykee a little bit vulnerable in the bottom lane? Should Ryze and Tristana look to engage?
Crykee playing it a little more defensively than he was perhaps doing so before. Top lane will just be falling to MelonCats. Not an objective that Cyborg Factory want to be contesting at this stage. 5-0 now in turret. Everyone heads back to base on MelonCats. Everyone has over 1,000 gold to spend in their back pocket and edging on 2,000 gold for Crykee. And this is just going from bad to worse.
It truly is, and the CS disparity between a lot of these lanes is far more than you would really want at the 23-minute mark. This is not the performance out of Cyborg Factory that they were hoping for, but MelonCats are turning up here, and it hasn't seemed to have phased them too much with their top laner being changed.
Almost seamless heading into this game. Yes, it was a little iffy when we headed into the top lane, but it at least just reacted to those ganks. Abaria uses his Ghost Blade in the bottom lane. We'll head on to Kha'Zix regardless. The rest of the cavalry has arrived. That will mean he'll be making a hasty retreat back to his minion line. His team was there, but not as fast as Cyborg Factory's reaction.
You can see the thought process there in Abaria's mind. He was like, oh, I'll disengage this now that I've seen Kha'Zix is here, but hang on, I just half-healthed him with 2 abilities. Maybe I can actually go in. Not the case.
No, I'm leaving again.
There's 4 people there. You're not able to go in like that. But what it has allowed MelonCats to do is secure vision, and I will draw your eyes to the map control here. Here is MelonCats' vision. As you can see, they have just started the Baron, and then we take a quick look at Cyborg Factory. They don't have vision past the Wolf camp on their own side, so they have no idea this is happening.
Yep, Cyborg Factory are blinder than Lee Sin, and they will not know that this Baron is going on. And they will not be able to even contest it, nor will they be able to get a timer on it. And MelonCats, oh, Zed now has a Baron buff.
I have to feel that there's a little bit of a misplay here out by Sayn. By now, he really should have that blue trinket. Charm did land.
Yeah, he actually duped into it, but we'll be going for this one-on-one against him. Meanwhile, the rest of the team, Tidal Wave was expended, heading back to the mid laners. Here comes the Zhonya's Hourglass. Abaria, not in good shape. We'll be duking out of the way of a couple skill shots. Now comes in Tristana from the side. This is very messy to kick off the fight. Zeclipse comes in from the top lane. Abaria as well. He will be taking him out with his ultimate. Vengeful Maelstrom. Now Tristana heads into the jungle and makes the wise move to head back to his team and not waste time chasing.
Yeah, but look at the push out from MelonCats. They're already in front of the inhibitor turret, and right now they're going aggressive.
They have caught out Kha'Zix, and he drops where he stands. No chance of getting away. Mid turret will be dropping, and he moves on promptly to this inhibitor.
That's an inhibitor falling. 3 members still dead. I wondered if MelonCats feel confident enough. Another pick may open this up, but it is a tough task to get 2 Nexus turrets, especially with Janna there as well.
Flag and drag into the AD carry, and he just explodes. Pop goes Tristana. They will be moving on to the Nexus turrets. Make that the second, make that the Nexus itself. And MelonCats find themselves a very decisive victory in the first game of this best of 3 up against Cyborg Factory.
That was a far faster game than any of our previous games today, and MelonCats certainly with a point to prove with that slightly different lineup. That was impressive.
It was impressive. That pretty much sums up the game here, Stress. It was textbook. It was doing everything that they had to do at every point in the game, and there was very few flaws in their plan. We didn't really see too many slip-ups from their play. Some of it, I guess most of it, was just looking at Zeclipse, that dodgy teleport in the bot lane, but other than that, a pretty solid performance.
Yeah, and he didn't die from it either, so he's 2-0-2 in that game, so fair credit to Zeclipse. He found his role there pretty well.
He did indeed. So anyway, guys, we will be prepping ourselves for the second game of this best of 3, so we will be right back after this short break.